This is Surrogacy Unwrapped. Today's episode, understanding health insurance and your surrogacy journey.
Can you kind of give us a high-level overview of the importance of health insurance when it comes to a surrogacy arrangement?
Yeah, absolutely. So very high level, it's a very intricate topic that there are literal companies designed to help agencies and anybody going through a surrogacy journey to figure out. But really, it's so important to ensure that your surrogacy, that your health insurance is surrogacy friendly during your journey.
And when would we find that out? How would a person, a woman, or the intended parents know if she had surrogacy-friendly health insurance?
Yeah, absolutely. So a common misconception is that people can just call and ask their insurance company over the phone, like, hey, does my policy cover surrogacy? The thing is when you're calling Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever, insert any name here of any insurance company, you're getting Joe Schmo on the phone. And when you get Joe Schmo on the phone, they may or may not know where to look. They don't know if they're actually giving you correct information. And they might say, yep, looks great, because they just control F'd and checked to see if surrogacy was covered or not covered or excluded. So a lot of people think that they can just call, and then truly that can come back to bite you, because if those do go to the billing department and they get denied, what are you going to say? I called and they said it was too bad. Sorry, the exclusion is actually there. So using a third party that is a professional in the industry and understands how to search for this. We at Family Choice, we use Art Risk, and there's also, I think, International Fertility Insurance, as well as I think there's another one called Arc Life or something like that. Okay. And those are kind of the ones that know exactly what to do or who to call. And it's so much more in depth than just calling the company. And it's called a policy validation. And there is an entire department of people dedicated to doing this, documenting it correctly, and then able to give over that information to ensure that it is covered or not covered, or sometimes the policy is silent and it doesn't say. So then there's a little bit of risk with that as well.
Okay. And at Family Choice Surrogacy, the process of having Art Risk run the health insurance to see if it is considered surrogacy friendly or not takes place in our screening process. And so when we are moving our surrogates into matching, this information is already obtained, and it is included in part of her benefits package. So the intended parents know whether or not she has a surrogacy health insurance policy, and what those benefits are. Okay, so Mariah, what does it matter to intended parents if their surrogate has a friendly policy or not?
Yeah, so whenever a surrogate is being seen by an OB, she's hopefully using health insurance, and that is helping to cover the costs of the medical bills associated with the journey. So when she actually goes to see her OB, there is a specific Z code that is billed that tells the insurance company that it is a surrogacy pregnancy and not like a naturally occurring pregnancy. And so whenever OBs, which they don't always use that Z code, and there's some nuances associated with that code. I think like they don't have to use it, but they can. It can be like a secondary code, and really that's something that Art Risk can talk to you about to further understand. But when they do use that Z code, it bills the insurance under a surrogacy code. And so the insurance can either accept or decline the charges based on that. So using it for your OB care, which is the entirety of your pregnancy, and then also your delivery, which is usually where the major medical costs come from.
Would the surrogate use her surrogacy-friendly health insurance policy during the IVF process, when she's, for the medications that she needs going into embryo transfer, the actual embryo transfer itself, or, perhaps any medical emergencies that may have taken place prior to getting to her OB care?
Yeah, so great question. And actually both of those are it's kind of a two-headed question there. The
Okay.
IVF costs are not covered. They usually will never be covered. Every once in a while. IPs, intended parents, sometimes have like insurance or infertility coverage through their employers. It's not super common, but it does happen. But like your health insurance policy does not actually cover any of the IVF aspects of it, unfortunately. So that's all self-pay. And then if there's a medical emergency while you're undergoing IVF, yes, you can use your insurance coverage. There are also other coverages available to be purchased. Intended parents can purchase like an IVF complications insurance, and that's again done through Art Risk. But if you like break your arm or get into a car accident or, have an ectopic pregnancy, naturally occurring on your own that's outside of IVF, then yeah, you would be able to go in and get seen under your health insurance because it's not actually surrogacy specific.
Okay, that makes sense. And so to clarify, I think I heard you say correctly that intended parents, their personal health insurance, like what covers them, is not something they can use towards their surrogate. Like any benefits they have can't be applied to her to help cover the IVF expenses. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So insurance policies and health insurance has got what's called a covered member, and the covered member is who owns that policy or holds that policy. So the intended parents might have their own health insurance, and actually, like I said, there might be some specific scenarios in which an intended parent might have some sort of coverage through work or other coverage that they can use for their own IVF costs to like
creating their
eggs.
embryos.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they can use that. But for the actual surrogate, the gestational carrier will not have any of that covered by any kind of insurance.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
So something that I see happen during my intake and screening process is oftentimes, surrogates are very educated these days. They've done a lot of research. And so they'll come to the table and they'll be very concerned about health insurance and worried whether or not their insurance is going to be surrogacy friendly and how that's going to impact their intended parents. How would you, comfort them or ease their worry about this situation? And really, what is this impact, or how does it impact the intended parents on a financial front?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Surrogates, and I think we'll get into this a little bit more, but occasionally as the agency, we have to purchase an insurance policy for them. And so often surrogates will say, oh, well, I need to ask my intended parents if I can use the insurance to get this medication or get my COVID booster that I need to do or whatever. And actually, yeah, you're the owner of that policy, so you should use it how you need to. And it's health insurance, so you can use it for anything related to your health insurance journey. And like if you're going to go into the doctor or go do something like that and you're going to have a copay, any kind of payment you make towards that is going to help actually hit your deductible faster for the intended parents. So it's really nice. But intended parents, they are the ones to actually pay for the policy for a surrogacy journey, unless, of course, a surrogate already has surrogacy-friendly insurance. So that is something she might come to the table with. She already pays for her health insurance, then she would continue paying for it, and that would be kind of part of her benefits package.
Sure. And I always tell surrogates too, again, just as I say, our surrogates are educated, our intended parents are just as educated. They know coming into this process that the surrogate is either going to have surrogacy-friendly health insurance or she isn't. It's a 50-50 chance here. And they typically are already prepared for what they can handle on the financial side of this journey, whether or not they can move forward with the surrogate who may not have surrogacy-friendly health insurance and are able to take on those added expenses.
Yeah.
And to an extent, it could be a match point in whether or not they can move forward with a surrogate who may not have surrogacy-friendly health insurance. So I always tell her, in my two journeys, I was a surrogate twice. I had TRICARE, and TRICARE is not surrogacy-friendly. And so I was able to match just fine. And my intended parents understood that moving into our journey that they were going to have to cover the expense of providing that health insurance for me. And it was okay. And I didn't feel like it delayed my match to any, extent. Yeah. Would you agree to that, Mariah? Did you have any issues on that front when you were a surrogate yourself?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting you bring that up. One, I do think it brings a good point to to the table of if your insurance circumstances change during a journey, you have got to let your agency know.
Oh my
ASAP,
gosh, yes.
because that is huge. It's a really big deal. It could end up with a ton of unintended costs. So really important that if something changes, that we're in the know and we can help facilitate that and get professionals involved to figure out our options. Because there are a lot of options. If you lose your health insurance for various reasons, there's something called a qualifying life event, in which you qualify for a open enrollment an ACA policy for a brief period of time, but it's a very brief period of time and that window is so short. So it's really important that we jump in and get in that window when we can.
And what is a reason someone's health insurance could change? Like, I feel like people may not realize how common this could occur.
Yeah, if you lose your job, if you have, a change of employment, if your employer changes health insurance companies and then you don't decide to renew.
Or if you're on your spouse's health insurance and their employment status changes, or y'all divorce, those types of things. Yes.
Lots of different options. So definitely there's tons of reasons, and we are here to, help facilitate that, of course. Now, your question to me about, did I have any issues in my journey? I also have TRICARE.
Yes.
And no, I didn't. And I got really lucky that I didn't, but I did not do it the right way. And I wish I would have had somebody to guide me a little bit better. But I just didn't tell the provider that I was seeing that I had TRICARE. And that it worked out, and it's okay. But there are ways and there's systems that they run checks through to see if you have other coverage, and they can figure it out.
Yeah.
And if you don't tell the provider, and then, TRICARE can come back up to it's an insane amount of time later and start, if it accidentally gets billed, if it accidentally gets billed, they can come back looking for a reimbursement. There's a lot. So it's really important that if you do have other coverage, you are honest about it and let us help you facilitate it, because otherwise there are checks in place that will catch this. And in fact, at the end of my journey, TRICARE sent me something that said, "We noticed you have other health insurance. What's going on here?" And I was like, "Nope, not anymore. I canceled it. Sorry."
Just kidding.
Look over here. So luckily it worked out okay for me, but it is very difficult when you have complicated insurances like that. TRICARE, any insurance in California is complicated. Anthem is complicated. So there's just so many different things to know. And that's why it's really important to have a professional involved.
Definitely. I will have, surrogates come and during the screening, and just like you mentioned earlier, they'll try and look through their policy book and do the control find, or talk to their provider and, believe they know the answer. And I appreciate them trying to be helpful.
Sure.
I think it's great to, again, be educated and knowledgeable about your coverage, but I just can't take that information and run with it without having Art Risk step in and give me that information. I need to have it in writing.
Which people don't realize, not only does Art Risk do that policy validation, but if they do that policy validation, confirm that your policy is surrogacy friendly, and then you start having claims be denied, Art Risk will go fight them for you. They will go say, actually, no, I have this documented call. Here's the reference number of the person I spoke to. This policy is covered. And there have been cases in which they have fought with a company and the language wasn't actually clear, and it could have been read either way. And Art Risk actually got them to cover things because their language wasn't clear enough.
Nice.
So I will say
Art Risk is the bomb. They know what they're doing. And
for sure.
I am very thankful and grateful that they exist in this field.
Yeah, you and
Okay, so let's talk about who is paying for what. So let's first talk about the surrogate comes to this agreement and she does have surrogacy-friendly health insurance. What's being paid for and by whom?
Well, the policy validation is going to be paid for by the agency or the intended parents. This is going to depend on your agency, actually. Or if you're doing an independent journey, of course, then it would be paid for by the intended parents. But the policy validation itself is not a huge expense. If she has her own policy that she came to the table with and it is surrogacy friendly, she will continue paying that policy.
Okay. And then what happens when she goes to the doctor and she has a copay or she has a deductible or she gets a bill, and all of these things are during the actual surrogacy journey? So she's pregnant and at her OB. Who's covering those expenses?
That's going to be the intended parents, and it should be in your contract. We have a nice little read your contract sign that we could hold up here. But really, truly, like, it should be covered in your contract, and it should be outlined very thoroughly who pays for it. But intended parents are responsible for all the medical costs associated with the surrogacy and pregnancy process.
Okay. All right. So then, scenario 2, she had her policy validation done. It came back. She does not have surrogacy friendly health insurance. What are next steps?
Next steps are, well, first, what time of the year is it? Are we in open enrollment? Because that's when we really want it to be. We want to be able to enroll her into a friendly policy that's on the marketplace. It's accessible. It's easy to find. They've been reviewed. That's your most cost-effective way. If it is not, there are some options, and this is going to be very dependent on where she lives and so many different things, but there's short-term policies that can kind of cover like catastrophic events that happen, emergencies. If we're close to open enrollment, like if we're a couple months from open enrollment, it might be worth it. But there are also policies that are issued through Lloyd's of London,
like a bridge the gap kind of a thing.
Well, that's those are like the short-term policies. Or there's some bridge the gap policies available. But there are like maternity specific policies available through Lloyd's of London.
And those types of things, Art Risk would help set up, correct? Like, if we got to that point and realized we weren't close enough to open enrollment, there's facilitators within that company who would help us figure out what we need to get through that particular stage, right?
Yep, absolutely. So we would pull Art Risk into the mix, and we would get the intended parents connected. And again, all of these costs do fall on the intended parents. And then the monthly payment for their insurance at that point would fall on the intended parents for their responsibility, because it is for the surrogacy specifically.
Okay, that makes sense. And just real briefly, a product that I feel like I've recently been hearing about with Art Risk is the dual claims management policy. And I apologize if I didn't say that in the right order. What is the benefit of having that, especially for, people who are just hearing about it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think they call it officially journey claims management, but we definitely call it dual claims management because it's so much easier and makes sense to understand it. But basically, when you have two policies, there are so many variables on which one needs to be billed first, and what if one denies it, who picks up the claim, how does the next policy get it? And it's very intricate, and it honestly is done wrong often, even by the insurance companies. So they have an entire department dedicated to this, and they are really good at what they do. And they, bless their souls, because I could never do it, but they are really good at it, and they figure out how to synchronize these two policies to make sure that everything is being billed correctly and that nobody comes back looking for money or reimbursement long after the fact. So that's super important. And honestly, if you have a surrogate who has a policy, maybe she has a policy through her spouse, and her spouse, you get a policy validation done on it. It's not surrogacy friendly. You need to pull out a surrogacy friendly policy. So now she has one where she's the primary account holder, and she has one where she's not the primary, her spouse is, and that makes it complicated. So then you just get journey claims management, and they figure all of this out for you. They make sure to negotiate things down, and it's really important. If you have a surrogate with two policies, I would go as far to say it's almost reckless not to have it.
I agree. I mean, why take the risk? And let the professionals step in. You are already going to have enough to worry about and think about on this entire journey. Let them come in and take this off your back, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I had two other questions I was thinking about, and I think it's pretty related. So one, would the intended parent's child, the child that the surrogate is carrying, go on her health insurance at the end?
Yeah, absolutely not. No, under no circumstance whatsoever. And it's funny because there have been some cases that we've heard of. I've never seen it happen firsthand, but I have heard of some cases where people are like, the hospital said, oh, we'll just put it on your insurance for now, and then we'll get baby transferred. Nope. Under no circumstance does the surrogate baby or the baby of delivery get put onto the surrogate's insurance. That they won't, it's not her child. They won't cover it. So
yeah. Okay. And then is there anything you can talk about? I know it may be too big of a topic, but kind of just, again, high level overview, because our time is running out, about surrogates who come to us on Medicaid.
Yeah.
And how that affects everything.
Sure. So, for a really long time, and still the ASRM standard is that a surrogate cannot be on government assistance. But for a really long time, that included all Medicaid, no matter what. Hard stop. If you're on government assistance, you can't be a surrogate. And that's for parentage issues that could potentially present themselves as, it can be seen that she's being coerced into it when she's not in a financial place. And anyways, the Medicaid laws have changed so much, and the requirements that, like, California has some really high coverage limits to be able to be on Medicaid. They also have a lot of people still on Medicaid from COVID that get to just kind of keep it. New York has its own entire set of laws and rules surrounding Medicaid and surrogacy both. So it's not actually as much of a hard stop as a lot of people want to say that it is. Now, people will come for me if I say this, so I have to be really careful. But you truly need to fully understand that person's Medicaid situation. Are they on Medicaid because their child has a disability, so they just qualify it for it under that disability umbrella? Then it's not income-related Medicaid, and that is okay. So there are cases in which Medicaid is acceptable for you to be on. There are not cases that it's acceptable to use for a surrogacy. So
I guess one of the rule of thumbs that I kind of go under, and please tell me if this is outdated, is, I don't want to jeopardize, especially if her children are on the Medicaid policy and it is income. I don't want to risk her earning compensation from her surrogacy journey and no longer being eligible, or having her children be eligible for this medical or health insurance coverage via Medicaid, and then they be without health insurance at some point. And that's where I get real hesitant. Is that still pretty valid?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're going to hear it from us 1,000 times, probably through all of these Unwrapped series, and then you'll hear it anytime you talk to a professional in the field. But surrogacy is about minimizing risks. And we're here to make sure that you are protected as a surrogate. And we're here to protect intended parents, but specifically on this topic, as a surrogate, we are not protecting you if we're asking you or allowing you to come off of your government assistance in order to do a journey. And it can be with the purest intentions and the best heart of hearts that want to do it. But the process to get back on Medicaid, and God forbid you don't achieve a successful pregnancy and you never actually get compensation. The process to get back on Medicaid could be devastating, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it for you or your family, and it's just not something that a good agency should be okay with.
I agree. And I just can't have that on my heart. Potentially put your family at risk. Even if I would love for you to be a surrogate and you qualify otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mariah, for answering all those questions. So I guess, is there anything you want to recap to our viewers about health insurance in general? Any final takeaways that you feel like maybe we didn't discuss? I know insurance is very broad, so.
It is so broad and it's so intricate. And I really, if people have questions, I love to answer them. I mean, I did used to work for an insurance company in the field, but I definitely do not have all of the knowledge by any means. We're not talking about accidental. We're not talking about life insurance on this.
Not right now.
Okay. Just making sure.
That's a whole nother can of worms.
That's another 30-minute Unwrapped. We need to add that in.
Yes. Our viewers, if they have more detailed questions, does Art Risk, take questions? Are you able to set up a call with them? Is there a charge for the call like that?
No, the coolest thing about Art Risk, and something that I absolutely adore about them, is that their main one of their main focuses is education. So like they want to help. Virginia Hart is the CEO, Sarah Page is the COO, and the two of them are like this dynamic duo, but like their brains and all the knowledge they hold, I'm like, how do you just pull those out? Like, how do you pull out these things and just know these things so quickly? But they do webinars during open enrollment. They're almost weekly, and they're specific to intended parents. There's one specific to gestational carriers. There's one specific to agencies. Like there are so many webinars through open enrollment. And then outside of open enrollment, they still do about once monthly webinars that are all recorded. So if you ever are like, hey, I missed it, can you email it to me? They'll send it to you, as well as an entire page of recorded videos and to talk about a lot of these topics. Also,
there's legit resources available that our viewers can tap into.
Yeah. And if you were to call Art Risk and just ask, and I'm sure IFI does the same, but I just honestly have the most experience with Art Risk. If you were to call Art Risk and just say like, hey, I have this question, can you help answer this? Most likely it'll be Chauncey who answers your phone call, and he's great and he'll direct you in the way that you need to go, but they will totally answer your questions. And you can ask your agency. I mean, you can ask us, we might know.
Yeah, definitely.
And if we don't know, we'll figure it out.
That's right. We are not afraid to ask for help if we don't know something.
Yep.
I want to let you know that if you are interested in becoming a surrogate or becoming an intended parent and you have not found your agency home yet, you're always welcome to apply at familychoicesurrogacy.com. I think we're a pretty great team, and we'd be happy to connect with you and identify whether or not you meet the basic qualifications for the process. Once you get on the website, you'll see that there's a tab directly for intended parents and also a tab for gestational surrogates. Just find which application is the one that you need. Our goal and plan moving forward is to have the Surrogacy Unwrapped series once a month at this current time. It's typically going to be the last week of the month. We will provide plenty of announcements a week prior to the event to help remind you. Next month in February, our topic is going to be about spouses and partners within your surrogacy journey and just their role in the process, how they can be a support to you throughout the entire journey. But that concludes our live event for today. So thank you for joining us.